Okay, I'm gonna mute myself, and then if you guys want to introduce yourselves, you can go ahead, and then we'll start with presentation.
Yeah, so I can start. I'm Deisha. I am a PGY1 at University of Maryland.
I'm Adjoa. I'm a second year at University of Minnesota North Memorial residency program in Minneapolis.
Hi, I'm Emmanuel Obi. I'm an attending in Oklahoma, Southern Oklahoma, family medicine board certified, and I work as a hospitalist, and I also do ER locums on the side when I'm not tortured enough from my hospitalist work. So it's great to be here.
All right, so we're talking ranking strategies, and we know time's a ticking. We get to the end of February, March. People I've interviewed. How was that? And how does it feel to be at the end of that and making this list?
Feel free to talk in the chat and also take yourself on mute, off mute.
Yeah.
Interviewing for me was exciting. All of Alabama was in person. I'm glad to be done. I finished my last second look this past weekend. It seemed like it just went on forever. Like we started in October. Why are we still going? I definitely like the in-person interviews better than the virtual ones. Just was easier to connect and get a sense of the space.
Rashida dropped long experience, but worthwhile. Anybody else?
For me, most of my options were virtual, but I did go to a few in person. And for the ones that I really liked that were virtual, I went to their second looks, and I feel like I really got an opportunity for, getting a feel of the culture there, the faculty and the residents. And I think it was definitely an important step in making the decision about where I possibly want to rank some of the programs.
So this slide is a lot about reflection about where do you want to be, what do you want your future to kind of look like, and this helps you kind of determine what residencies you're going to put in your like your top 5, your top 10 kind of thing. So you're like, I think non-negotiables is something we talk a lot about, and it's really important. So like, what are the things that you must have, like whether or not it's in an urban area or a particular city, like those are really important and obviously affects how your ranking list. And once again, they're non-negotiable. So like maybe you have a program that doesn't quite fit in with your non-negotiables, but you like the program, but maybe it doesn't make your top 3 or 5 just because like, oh, it has this one little thing, or like, oh, it's technically it's not exactly in the city I want it to be, is like next to it kind of thing. Well, we can get more into that about how you, that's like one strategy to kind of list out your list, to kind of get your list in order. I think on this side, something really important is don't rank just because you interviewed. I felt compelled. I think I ended up canceling some interviews. So my logic and my reasoning for canceling the interviews, like all the interviews I did go to, I had to rank. And looking back on it, which I reflect on pretty often now, especially after being part of the rank list process of my program, I probably shouldn't have ranked some of my programs, because if it got down to the nitty gritty and I got to that level of where I ranked them, I would have been pissed. And it was a program that I ranked number 3. And I was like, looking back, wow, it really should not have been number 3. I did not particularly like that program. Luckily, I didn't get to that point, but that's something to keep in mind. Compared to at a time, not something I really particularly did. I kind of ranked mine across a scale. I know I remember just we got the questions before this, and one of them was about like tools to help you rank put your list in order. I actually use Excel and I just like kind of coded like my non-negotiables into points. I think I use a 10 system point. And then like if they were in the city I wanted, they got 10. If they were they had like a women's health track or a reproductive health track, that was something that was really important to me, they got 10. So like I kind of did my program based on that and then tallied the score at the end. And then I kind of like looked at their score, like what their list was based on their score, and then how I actually wanted to rank them. I like moved my bottom list around a lot more based on that, but I didn't really touch my top like 3. I didn't couples match, so I don't really know much about it. I don't know if anybody else can speak to that.
So I didn't couples match either, but I could talk a little bit more about the like ranking 2 at a time. So looking back at how I did it, there's these things on the internet where you can like type in a list and it'll like compare and you just kind of click which one you like. So I did that and that was helpful to help me rank people above, and it would also put out a list for you too.
What, Adra, what do you mean you rank people above?
Yeah, so like using that tool, sorry, I'm skipping ahead, but like using that tool, it'll end up putting a list for you based off how you compared each one. So then it helps you put people in order. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, I probably would rank this program above this one or below this one. And it just kind of helped put things in perspective, I think.
Do you remember what website or tool it was, Ajua?
I'm gonna look it up right now and I'll put it in the chat.
While she's doing that, just looking at this. So thank you emails. Is this in particular to like interviews, like after interviews? Yeah, okay. I didn't send any thank you interviews. I was already very like overloaded in terms of just like mentally dealing with interviewing every day. Like you guys know, you've been through it now. It's a lot. It's very taxing. Like the moment I was done my interviews, I was ready to take a nap and also eat an 8-course meal. For some reason, I was always starving after my interviews. So for me, thank you emails weren't at the top of my list. I did do my letter of intent around this time though, where I sent my letters of like, I plan on ranking you highly to my second and third choice options, and then I'm planning on ranking you number 1 to my number 1 option. And that was something I did. I do know people that did thank you emails. I will say just going through like I said, going through the kind of ranking process with my program, they do take some of the stuff into consideration. So every point of contact you do have with your programs, they are taking that into consideration. I've seen people move up on the rank list because they've have expressed like, this is my dream program kind of thing. Like obviously they meet all the other qualifications, but having that express interest really helps. But do not, and I repeat, do not tell more than one program that you're the number 1. People talk, family medicine is very small. You don't want to get caught up, especially if you're saying that to the same state or same like city. Don't get caught up. You never know where you're going to end up applying for jobs too. So those are things that will come back to bite you in the butt later.
So do you heavily recommend to do a letter of intent?
For me personally, I think it never hurts. If you are like
Okay.
definite and you know you're number 1, I don't think it hurts personally. But you have to be 100%
Okay.
sure in that fact. And I think just
Okay.
saying ranking you highly is also okay. I did that to my number 2, my number 3, just so they know like you're on my list, like whether or not you're my number 1, whatever, but like you're on my list kind of thing.
Okay. Thank
Other
you.
people might have other opinions, but yeah.
I would agree with Deasia. I would also say that if you're going to send these letters of intent, that you clearly state like why this program is a good fit for you and why it aligns with your goals, so they can really pick that out and it'd be like, oh, slam dunk, okay, cool, this person would be great here because they align with what we do. Not just like, hey, I like y'all a lot, bye, but like articulate that.
Very good point, Nacho. Thank you. Like you have to do those connection points. So like things that came up in the interview, people you met, you do back to that connection points that you did before, just to make it more realistic and like, oh, this is not just another email I just sent out in the cogwheel kind of thing. Like I said, I didn't do the response emails really, so I don't have much to say about that. And this is just a little bit more about soap. I don't know if you guys want to play. I know there's usually a soap another soap action. What's the thing called? A meeting. That we did last year. I know we did it last year. I don't know if it's gonna happen this year, but I don't know if you guys want to play it or not. This is your field, Janelle and Tamika.
We do have one scheduled. It'll be next Friday, and there's some more information about that at the end of the presentation. Thanks.
Oh.
And thank you for the thank you email comment. I was really worried about that, like going through, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't sent some schools thank you emails, but thank you for, just giving your 2 cents about what you did.
I will also say some programs told us not to do it. Like I had some programs that were very explicit, like do not send us emails. And I feel like if you did, it proves that you cannot listen and people reflecting your against you in that case. So these are some good resources just to kind of go back to. The group me is a great place. You guys have your own year group me. You have the big group me where all like there's several doctors attending, all the people who are run through the gambit and that group. WFMP Strolling Through the Match was really good. I actually looked at how the match works through that book. Still didn't really understand it. Watched a couple of videos. Still also didn't really understand it. Had to explain it to my family. I understood it. They made me not understand it. So it's helpful to just kind of understand how it works a little bit. It's an algorithm, but it does work in our favor. Do not choose based on what a program. I will say I have learned this lesson very, very closely because this happened to my friend. Do not choose a program based on what they say to you. Choose it based on what you want. My friend ranked somewhere number one. They said they were at number one. She is at her number 3 right now.
So if I might chime in, wow, it's been so long, 2017 to 2020. So I interviewed and ranked 10 programs. I could have ended up anywhere in those 10 programs. I know people, oh yeah, not to beat a dead horse, but people tell you not to send a letter during the interviewing process saying, hey, I'm still interested in your program. I sent out one of them 2 minutes after I got the email. I got a response. They're like, we've been trying to get a hold of you. But again, that's in the past. That's a whole nother story. We can talk about that later. But now that you've interviewed and you guys are sitting here and everybody's like, should I send them an email? Should I not? Be careful about where you send. If they told you don't send an email, please listen. Don't send an email. If they didn't mention it, it won't hurt. It won't hurt. That's how I see it. I did send thank you emails to the programs that didn't say anything. If you told me not to bug you, I didn't bug you. When that's all said and done, I agree with what Dr. McAlpine just told you guys. Please, please, please rank based on where you want to go. Don't play this game, he say, she say, I know XYZ, they know me. I don't care who you know. They don't care who you know because you don't know how they're going to rank. You literally don't know. The computer, it really is an algorithm. They take your top 10, in my case, and then they rank your top 10. They try to go off of your list to see where you fit in on the program. If your program ranks you high enough, like in the top 3, top 5, chances are you're going to get your number 1 spot. But if they don't, well, you start and they fill up their program, then the computer starts doing the second, and it just goes down your list. It ranks your list based on how the school ranks you and how soon they fill. That's basically the easiest way to explain that algorithm. Don't try to outgame the algorithm. Don't try to outthink the algorithm. Just keep it simple, keep it prayerful, and just keep hope and faith alive. That's what a lot of us have had to do to get to where we are today. And what if you don't match? I mean, I might be skipping a few places on this PowerPoint. What if you don't match? I was there. You know, I should have matched in 2015 with the people I started med school with. Oh no, I'm sorry. I should have matched in 2016. I graduated in 2016. I should have matched with the people I started med school with. I didn't match in 2016. I matched the following year in 2017. It sucks. It's a very weird and horrible place to be in, because here you are, fully trained, medically trained MD or DO, and you're just sitting there with no job. You got debt staring at you. There's a lot of things you have to emotionally you're going to go through. It's not fun. Anybody who's gone through this process understands this, that it's not fun if you don't match. There are things you can do, and we can talk about those resources later. It's things like assistant physician programs. It's not everywhere. It's in some places. Some people do externships. I taught for a year. I taught medical students for a year. That was the route I went. Ross University gives some of their graduates that option, and I was grateful for that option. So I was a junior faculty. So that's a little bit of my story. But when it comes to rank where you would like to go. The program tends to, the algorithm is designed to favor you. I matched in my number 4. Not my 1 that promised me everything. Not my 2 that promised me everything. My 3rd one, they didn't really care about me, but it was my 3rd one anyway. I'm from Houston. I wanted to go back to H-Town. But no, I ended up in Fayetteville, Arkansas. A town that I'm like, oh, whatever. I'll rank you here. At least you're close to Houston. I ended up in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And if you ask me today, I felt that God, the universe, whatever you believe in, put me exactly where I needed to be, because my program was unopposed and I had a great experience. And we can talk about unopposed versus opposed programs later. I'm going to stop for now.
So before we get into like the question part of this, so just some next steps to reflect. This is a time of reflection. 4th year was hard. It was harder than any other year, just because you finally have the time to think about your emotions, and you realize that the 3 years before this, you were just balling it all down. It was a hard year. So talk to mentors, reflect. Yoga. I did a lot of yoga, a lot of just sitting there and kind of just thinking about things, about being a doctor. Like, that also starts hitting you at some point. That was crazy. Therapy if you need it, medication if you need it. Like, don't be afraid to reach out for those kind of resources. It's a hard time, like I said. Like, when you realize you really have not been processing your mental health for the last 3 years because you're just dealing with med school, and you get to this point where all you have, not necessarily all you have, is free time, but you have a lot more than you're used to. You have time to really think about this when you're thinking about where you want your future to be. It's a big decision, and it's going to affect your life. And yeah, it's a big moment. So reflect, talk to mentors, do what you need to do, reach out in the group. That's what the group me is for, to have these conversations, to vent to each other about this, do vent sessions. And then just some key dates. So making sure you're registered for the match is January 31st. That already passed, I think. I don't know what today is. Oh, rank is open. Oh, isn't it? Yes, it is. Rank is due on the 28th. I think that's very rude. It's a leap year. It should be due on the 29th, but whatever. And then you find out on the 15th, and then SOAP starts on the 11th. Not another date to keep in mind. I would just, if you're also gonna send your letter of intent, I think around this time is a good time to start doing it. You want to make sure the programs are also having these conversations. They're doing this reflection. They're meeting together. So you want to make sure you're getting your letters in early enough that they know that you're interested, and that can, still has time to sway you on the list, kind of thing. Also, if programs are saying that because I know a lot of programs did this last year, if they're saying that they're going to close their rank list, before second looks, keep that in mind and trying to send your letters if the second looks haven't happened yet. I don't know how honest they were being about closing the rank list before then, but that is something to just keep in mind. I have nothing else to say.
And then this is the QR code for the following session, which will be about strategies for soap that we're having next Friday. I'll post more about this in the group meets to get some more information about it, and hope you guys can attend. And then following that, we'd like to talk about some advice for intern year, kind of how to prepare us moving into June, July, some of the strategies and steps that we can take to make sure that it's a smooth transition. And then we'll jump into questions. The presenters have provided their email addresses if you guys want to ask them any follow-up questions, or you can send us emails at the ABFMP website, or just speak to us in the group meet, and we'll be able to help and assist any way we can.
So I have did we go over some of the questions that the attendees had submitted earlier? Because I stepped out for a few minutes initially.
Not yet. We can talk about them now.
Okay.
One of the questions in the email, and somebody just asked, was talking about opposed and unopposed, and you brought it up too, Dr. Obi.
Sure. Yeah, let's talk about it. So for those that don't know, unopposed is you don't have any other residency program, meaning if you're in family medicine, there's no OB program, there's no emergency, there's no IM, there's no surgery, which means when you're on these services, on these other services, you get to do a lot more. My program initially in UAMS Fayetteville, Arkansas was unopposed. It's technically not unopposed anymore because they've added a couple more. I think they added emergency. They're trying to add general surgery and whatnot. What it allows you to do is you get to do a lot more procedures. If you're a procedural based person, you want to do procedures, you get to do a ton of procedures because you're not fighting with residents to do procedures. What I tell people sometimes is, regardless of, again, it depends on what you really want out of this. Let's say you're one of those that want to do ER medicine, but you didn't match into ER medicine, you match into family medicine. Guess what? After your family medicine program, you can do a fellowship in ER, usually about a year, and boom, you're an ER doctor. I have a couple of friends that are family med board certified that all they do is ER. They've never done an inpatient, they've never done outpatient. That's what they do. I have some friends who do OB-GYN right now. They all they want to do obstetrics, but they never got into OB fellowship. Again, today, all they do is OB fellowship. What did they do? After their family medicine residency training, they ended up going to an OB fellowship, and now they do OB. So when it comes to unopposed versus opposed, unopposed allows you to do more that prepares you for whatever you may do later. However, even if you do go in an opposed program that has OB residents, surgery residents, internal medicine, peds, you name it, you just get to do less procedures. But it doesn't matter which program you go into, technically speaking, at the end of the day, if you want to be in another field, there's literally a pathway or an avenue that allows you to do that. I just used two prime examples, which is in emergency medicine or obstetrics. There's a lot of family medicine obstetricians out there, and you just have to go through a fellowship route. Maybe I don't know if I can't think of all of the top of my head right now, because a lot of times there's different fellowships that family medicine can go through to end up doing something totally different than your regular clinic medicine, or like me, hospitalist medicine. And I just told you guys earlier, I'm a hospitalist. That's what I've done for the last 3 years. But I've been doing locums ER since 2019 while I was in residency. That's my play money, if you will, and something I do on the side. So opposed, unopposed, procedures. That's what it boils down to for now.
I think another aspect. Oh.
I think that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead, Adra. No, Adra, go. I've talked a lot. You go.
I was gonna say too, I'm at an unopposed program in No, my computer's frozen. So I hope y'all can hear me. I was saying that I'm at on a program, and procedures is one part of it. I think too, there's pros with being at a post program too, because you get to learn alongside other learners. So you get to pick up on some things that you might not pick up on if you weren't with other residents, or like maybe attendings that are more academic focused and like able to give you those like small pearls or very specific things. Then on the post side, I know for us, like our service don't depend on us. So we're really just there to learn. I love that because like you're gonna go on like cardiology, you're not about to get 10 patients to round on. Like you're gonna get the ones that you want to round on, and you're gonna learn. They're gonna sit with you if they have time and talk to you about it. So you really get to get the meat of it instead of just being kind of a workhorse. So there is the ups and downs, and there's pros and cons to each side. But I would really strongly recommend that you ask the residents at that program what it looks like for them to be unopposed. What does the work look like for them? So you can really understand the expectations on each of those rotations.
And my last little tidbit for unopposed versus opposed is I think I'm in a opposed program, fully opposed. We have our own hospital service though, and mother baby unit thing. But talking to the residents about how they feel about the residents they work with, that was something that was really important to me. When you're off service, it's hard. I am currently in LND, and luckily all my residents have been really nice, but I've heard some stories where it does not go very well. And just keeping that in mind, where you're kind of like, if you're out of your element on family medicine, where you're always around your residents, and then you go off service and everybody's mean and angry. I am also the only Black person, just because of where the group we are. Like, I'm the only Black person in LND, so that part is hard. So like I reach back to my co-residents all the time. Like, just those little things is important.
So one of the questions that was asked was, how seriously should we consider the number of residents in each intern class in our ranking? It depends. I'll give you an example of UAMS in Magnolia, Arkansas. They only have 3 classes a year, or 3 residents a year, from intern to grad to senior, versus where I started, which used to have 9, but now they're up to 12. They increased their number. So every location is different. If you're in a very population heavy area, there's a good chance your residency class or your intern class will be a little bit bigger. If you are in a smaller area, there's a chance that your class will be smaller. But then the people who trained in Magnolia, a lot of them can do OB work because you were the first assist for everything. This goes back into that opposed versus unopposed thing. So, and they were an unopposed program. So you were on call for a lot of things. You got to experience and do a lot of things, but they also worked a lot. So some unopposed programs are a little bit nicer. Others, you're going to do a lot of work. So it really depends on you. It really depends on the program and what their size is. Some programs try to increase size, but based on the population around that town, they may not be able to increase that size. It really depends on you. It really depends on you and how you feel about it. For me, I mean, I ranked Magnolia. I think I ranked it 5 or 6 on my list. It wasn't 10th.
I will be honest, I did not play it any never mind, to be very honest. Very surprised when I found out my program was 10 people. I was like, oh, okay. The only time I considered it was a program in Syracuse. It was like 30 people, and I was like, this is the most I've ever seen. Usually most programs, because I mostly applied Northeast, are like 10 to 15, and it was like 30. I was like, wow, that's too many people. I don't want to get to know that many people.
There are some horror stories. If you have programs that are packing 20 to 30 people, well, not 20, actually, yeah, 20 to 30 people. The horror story is, and there's one program in particular, I know for their peds and their IM program, they do this. They do a black horse, which means if you're that last person in that program, they're going to boot you out after that intern year. I wouldn't name the program, but it's in Dallas. They play that. Yes, some programs play that game. So you might think, oh, the class is big. Great. I have more opportunities. That when they're doing those kind of numbers game, especially some of these preeminent quote unquote big names, don't be shocked if they boot you out. Well, I'm not gonna say they're gonna boot you out, but they technically kick out the person they consider the black horse or the least performing intern every year. They're not gonna write you a bad review. They're just gonna tell you, I'm sorry, you can't, we won't extend you the courtesy to continue your program. And then they'll help you write your review to match in another program to second year and up.
I mean, that part is kind of nice, I guess. I mean, it's rude, but at least they help you a little bit.
I mean, but think about it, you're really moving your life from one location.
Yeah,
Again, I'm not saying that all the big number programs are like that, but some of them play that game.
Never heard of that. There's another question in the chat. We can go back and forth between the chat and the emails we got. So how should the middle of the rank order list be ranked? Because I feel like mine doesn't really consist of programs that I don't hate but don't really love. And just starting off on that, I did not pay attention to my middle, to be honest. I cared about my like top 5. Honestly, I really just cared about my top 3. And then like considered my top 5 pretty heavily. And then after that, I was like, where they go? That's nice. These are not 5.
I'm a little bit OCD. Don't do what I did because you might start having anxiety issues. I literally built an Excel sheet. Location, residency stipend, number of residents, driving distance from that location to Houston, Texas. And of course, the Houston, Texas program didn't pick me. I mean, I don't even think they considered me, but whatever. So that's what I did for myself. That's how I built. But again, I was OCD. Location was important to me. How far can I drive from this place to Houston if I had to jump in a car and drive? That was one of the biggest things. The rest, you got to find out where you fit in. So I don't know what rubric anybody uses per se. Again, pick where you really want to go. At the end of the day, pick where you want to go. You're either going to get lucky or you're not. That's what I did.
I would say that. I also say, so I dropped in the chat, the tool. It's like a pairwise comparison tool. You probably could find other on Google, but that's where it helped me in the middle, because it asks you like A versus B, C versus D, D versus A, and like it helps you. So then it comes out with this list and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I agree with that. That makes sense. And it helped me put that middle together that like I didn't necessarily have a lot of stock into, but I wanted to make sure it was accurate for what my needs were as a resident and what my goals and my themes that I need in those programs.
Please do that. I really reflect back and I was like, if I did not get into I got into my number 1. If I did not get into my number 1, I would have been fucked. I liked my number 2 and I liked my number 1, and that was really it. And I was like, oh shit, I did not do this the right way when I look back on it. So please don't be like me. I got lucky. The universe was on my side, but please don't be like me.
I got my number 4. And like I keep telling everybody, I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be. That's how I feel. It wasn't my number 1. It wasn't Houston, but I still feel like to this day, I feel like I was exactly where I needed to be. My residency class, my class, exactly the people I needed to be around to grow as a physician. The attendings that I had, exactly the people I needed in my life to grow as a physician. So I got lucky. Let's see. Another question was, we talked about pros and cons of unopposed. Important factors to consider in ranking: reputation, location, support, culture. I think we've pretty much beaten that to death. Best strategy of ranking. Everything is about ranking. Guys, rank where you want to go and then start playing the mind game of, again, you can do my route, which is the OCD of build a Excel spreadsheet and put everything in columns. That way it's on one paper and you're looking at it and praying over it. I did the same thing when it came to getting my attending job. What did I care the most about? Loan repayments. That's what I cared about. And I signed like 4 contracts. Don't do that. I'm gonna talk to the residents that are getting ready to become attendings about the do's and don'ts later, because that's a whole nother ball game. I signed 4 contracts. I canceled out on 3 of them. last minute ended up on where I am today because they came back last minute. I wasn't even considering, like I said, oh, the state of Oklahoma is going to pay $50,000 a year on a non-tax. Is not W-2, is not 1099, and guess what? That's why I'm here. So find what you want to do, find what's going to work for you, and rank that way. And don't be the person that changes your rank the last minute, the last second, because I've known people who've done that. I wasn't one of them. The moment I was done with my rank listing and changing the third time, I was done. And then I left it alone for 3 days until everything was over.
So I changed mine last minute, and I changed it in a way that like was just like, I'm glad it did not work out that way, because when I think back to what I want and my themes, I tried to compare it to that program. And I was like, at the end of the day, like, they did not match. Like that was not the match. I was not going to match. And I'm glad it didn't work out that way, because if it would have, I would have been unhappy or unfulfilled. So always go back to what your themes are. What doctor do you want to be? You want to be a person that does really well with reproductive health, or someone that is really great at procedures. Like, what does that look like? You want to be in an urban space. Does this match that? I want to go to Rashida's question. So, should the difficulty of transitioning to a new state be a factor in ranking? And possibly, there's a lot of factors that can go into that. I moved to a different state, and things that could help influence that. Okay, do you have people coming with you? Is it just you? Do you got money? Are you gonna have money to do this? Do you need a car when you go there and you don't have one, or is it the other way around? How are you with changes? Are you ready for a change? Do you need a new life? Like, there are so many parts to that, and it could be a positive thing for you, or it could be negative. And do you have the support to support you through changing to a new state? So that, I feel like that's a real internal question that you'll have to answer for yourself. But transitioning anywhere I think is going to be difficult to a degree, even if you're in the similar city but starting residency. So
for me, transitioning was a little bit. I'm ex-military, so transition going from a new location to another was whatever. It's gonna happen. It is what it is. I went to a Caribbean medical school. I did most of my clinicals in Chicago. So location does matter about what you feel like you can handle. Look, I've been to New York. I don't want to do residency in New York. That was my thing. I didn't even bother applying to New York residency programs, but I never wanted to do anything. I don't think I would have survived New York. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. Surprisingly, Chicago, because I did all my clinicals, they were like, it's not so bad. I mean, I still ranked them like 8th or 9th. I mean, they were pretty low ranked. But again, if push came to shove, I would survive it. I'd already done 2 years of my clinicals there, so I knew how to get around and survive there. But location does matter. Think about it. Where would you like? There's so many factors. Like, if for those that are married, would your spouse have a job? Can they just leave where they are? Some of you may have spouses that can't leave their job. What if your spouse right now is a physician, already in a residency program? I don't know, pick somewhere in the United States. Are you guys willing to do the long distance relationship for the 3 years of, if it's family medicine, of your residency if you end up in a location that's far away? So there's a lot that goes into this that you guys have to factor. There's no one size fits all that's going to be able to encompass all the different thoughts for everybody that's on this call, all the moderators that are talking on this call. We all had different things that made us pick different locations and rank differently. Go with your heart and your gut and pray a lot about it. Let's see. One of the other questions is, what factors indicate program quality? Easy. But not every program, not every program publishes this stuff. What is the first time pass rate for board exams? Is it 100%? Is it 80%? I don't think a lot of programs are in the 80th percentile, because you, just like medical school, you finish medical school, you have to take all these USMLEs, and you have to get into what do you call it? You have to get into residency. Then you get into residency. You got to get out. Well, you want to be board certified. At the end of the day, when I introduce myself in forums that I'm speaking, Dr. Emmanuel Obi, family medicine board certified, then I could tell you all the other stuff that I do if you want to hear about it. But you want to be board certified, not board eligible your entire life. And are there physicians that are board eligibles that can't pass boards? It happens. Not everybody's a good test taker, but you want to be in a program that has a good high passing board rate. That's one of the ways to look at a program to determine, is this a good program versus is this not a good program? At the same time, I can also say that, is that everything? Because you can see a program that on paper, everything looks good. But the moment you went to those interviews, if you had friends there, you should pick up the phone and call them today and say, hey, tell me the real truth about your program. Because you want to know if this is a malignant place or not. They might have 100% board pass scores. But if this is a malignant place and you know your mind, body, and soul can't handle malignancy, you might not want to go there. You might not want to go there. That's just my 2 cents. So one of the ways to look at it is program board pass rate. First time, not the second time, first time. Second is how do the residents in the program deal with that? How do they feel about it? I'm the chief of staff for my hospital right now, and I have all these people that interview for different positions. One of the orthopedic surgeons who just interviewed for this hospital, his main reason for picking here is because he found another Houston boy that's here in the middle of Southern Oklahoma, loving it, not really complaining. And he asked me, hey, man, he called me after the interview. He's like, hey, man, tell me the truth. What's going on? How do I feel about this? I'm like, well, I can't talk about orthopedic work, but I can tell you about my experience as a hospitalist. The next day he signed. So that's one of the reasons why I always recommend, if you have friends in that programs, classmates, or people who went to your school who are in that program and you can get a hold of them, ask them to tell you about that program. Seriously. It can save you a lot of headache and misery.
Shout out Adjoa for typing out without spelling errors all these answers to these questions in this chat. Like, this is amazing. I would type.
Thank you.
Not type that fast at all. Like she was like, but one of the other questions was, how do you just going off of that point, how do you figure out if a program is malignant? Like, what qualities do you see? I think one of the things I looked for was when I was in the meet and greets, the second looks, was, are these people interacting with each other? Are they like kikiing in the beginning, like when everybody joins in the virtual chat and they're like, hey, what's up? What you doing? Where you at? Where's your cat? Let me see your cat, kind of thing. Like, are they doing that in the beginning? I will say my program was a little about it this year. I'm not gonna hold you. I was in the group, I was like, I don't know yet like that yet. So just be mindful of when the groups are, like, if the interns are there, they might not be as comfortable yet. Like, we're still getting our feet wet. We're not always with our seniors. So like, just be mindful of that. Shout out my program if anybody interviewed, like, we was a little awkward, but that's something I looked for personally. And the same thing at the second looks. Are they interacting with each other? Are they interacting with their attendings? How's their relationship with their attendings? That's also something to keep in mind. Because like the attendings are also the people giving you feedback. They're the ones you see and you report to. So like, is it a good is it a good relationship? Are they like mean and just don't listen and don't care about what you have to say? Are they making changes? Those are other questions to ask residents.
Yep. Honestly, so again, so the interview is like a dress rehearsal, and unfortunately, everybody's on their best behavior. So sometimes we present our best image, which is why I always say, if you know somebody, this is time to phone a friend. One of the things I can say is, if any of y'all on this program listening to me right now wants to know about UAMS, Fayetteville, Arkansas, it's not malignant, it's a good program.